I think authentic people are high character individuals who don't just talk the talk, they also walk the walk, which means they back up their positive, empowering words with actions that benefit themselves and others.
Welcome to Drop and Give Me 20, where you learn keys to entrepreneurial success as Lindsey interviews business owners with military backgrounds on what works and what doesn't. Listen as they focus on the stories, both challenges and wins, that military entrepreneurs have faced in growing their businesses.
Welcome to another episode of Drop and Give Me 20. I am your host, Lindsey Germono. Drop and Give Me 20 podcast is a registered trademark of Germono Advertising Company, and I am so excited today. I have met these two guests just recently in person, which I'm very grateful for, and I decided to invite them on to talk about authenticity as it relates to our businesses. So, well, I guess good afternoon, and now Dan Dwyer and Amy Uptgraft.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon to both of you.
Yes. I'm excited, like I said, to have you guys on. For those that are following along, these podcast episodes are really tailored to business, military entrepreneurship, and what we go through as military entrepreneurs to help inspire those that are listening. So again, I've invited Dan and Amy on to talk about that authenticity because it can get very messy out here and you can start to sway from your mission very quickly. So with that being said, I would love for Dan, can you take a moment and introduce yourself and your business to us?
Yeah, happy to do so. My name is Dan Dwyer, and I am the founder of Vet2BizLife. And Vet2BizLife is dedicated to the boots to business advancement of our veteran entrepreneurs. And in the case of this unique audience, I'm all about reversing the trend of 9 out of 10 startups failing. So I believe that veteran entrepreneurship does not all have to be discovery learning. And unless you had a very unique job in the military, no matter how much energy, drive, and initiative you have, there's some gaps, specifically business acumen gaps. And in some cases, depending on at what point in your career you exited the military, some leadership development gaps as well. So that's what I focus on in my coaching, consulting, services, podcast, et cetera.
Yeah, I was going to say you have a podcast. So for those that are listening, check out Dan's podcast. Dan, where can we find that?
Yeah, of course, the podcast is aptly named Vet2BizLife. And it's in this podcast, of course, I interview the most inspiring veteran entrepreneurs. I share their stories, their experiences, their successes, and their challenges to improve the personal and business lives of others. You can find that on if you're an Apple user, of course, Apple Podcasts. If you're an Android user, Google Play, also iHeartRadio and Stitcher.
Excellent. All right, Amy, let's hear about you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Lindsey. I'm Amy Uptgraft. I'm first and foremost a playwright. I wrote a play titled I Will Wait that shares stories of veteran spouses across generations. It spans from World War II to the current day. And I'm also the founder and artistic director of the Veteran Spouse Project. And we produce the production and tour it around the country and couple it with an expressive arts workshop for veteran spouses so they can have a safe place to share their stories through using different art modalities.
How did you come up with this? Where did this come from?
In a therapy session, if we're being authentic. Yeah, so I had a really hard time during my husband's 4th deployment, and I have a theater degree. So my therapist suggested journaling. I decided to write a play. I started to talk to other spouses, World War II, Vietnam, just started to ask them to share me their stories with me and tell me how they persevered. And as I heard more and more stories, I just realized that there was an incredible amount that needed to be shared. So I put it all into a play and we've produced it a few times now. It's being very well received. But I felt like once the play was produced, we needed something else. We needed a safe place for spouses to feel like they could share their stories as well. So we developed the workshop with one of my partners, Wendy Caldwell. She's an expressive arts therapist. So she facilitates workshops for spouses to share their stories.
Thank you for that. And thank you from all the people that have attended or have not attended yet, because I can't wait. Come to the East Coast, please.
We're working on it.
Dan, how did you get started with your business? What inspired you to do that?
Well, I've always, obviously, it's an audience that I've always appreciated. Having spent 22 years in the military, I was that person. I'm very comfortable with my ability to develop leaders and high-performing teams. However, I had to close my own business acumen gap. So for about 8 to 10 years, after 22 years in uniform, I've worked with the organizations in the public and private sector in order to intentionally develop my own business acumen while developing their leaders and their organizations.
So when people come to you and you start to help them with this part of their business, as it pertains to authenticity, what kind of direction do you give them when it comes to that? What kind of pointers?
Well, I think authenticity really is about presence, right? Living in the moment with conviction and confidence and staying true to yourself. So sometimes with a veteran entrepreneur, I have to remove that fear and self-doubt first, right? So that they become the authentic person that they know they can be. That person that puts people around them at ease, like a comforting old friend who comes or welcomes us in and makes us feel at home. We desire authenticity for ourselves, and we want to know that people we invite into our lives hold this virtue in high regard. We know that the people that we do business with every day are very authentic people. They share that core value that we do. Conversely, people that we certainly will never do business with, we feel are disingenuous and not authentic.
Boy, in the military community, that is we are a very small group. I will say that if you have mistreated, if you're a business owner and you're a veteran business owner, military spouse business owner, doesn't matter, and you treat someone not well or not nice, or with that ugliness, boy, we will find out. Other people will find out. But it's hard to stay authentic when you have, what will happen is you have a big, carrot dangling in front of you with financial behind it, and you need to pay bills. So when that comes into play, I have struggled with that part on, is this in line with my agency? Does this fit our values, our company culture? But I need to pay bills, and how that kind of works. Amy, talk to us about what authenticity, means to you as you guys are working on this.
Well, I feel like the play itself, it all started on just being authentic. I think oftentimes military spouses and families, I feel like we have to put on, there's a line in the play that talks about shining your American flag pins and waving your welcome home banners. And I think oftentimes the rest of the country kind of views us as this caricature of this all-American family. And the play works very hard, and the workshop along with it, to kind of peek behind that curtain and to show you that we're authentic people. We get mad and frustrated and scream and kick and throw fits about the war and the government and, the military itself just as much as anyone else. So we work very hard to give our entire project an authentic voice, that spouses and families can come and know that it's a safe place to talk about all the ways that we're proud of our veterans and our service members and the things we love about this life, but also the things that are hard, and that it's okay to say that sometimes this life is hard. And so we work very hard to create an environment where authenticity is the core value of what we do.
So, and I'll ask you both this question, but Amy, since you have the mic, have you ever turned down opportunities or relationships from others that didn't feel right as it pertains to that, that?
We have. So we're a fairly new business and organization, and we're kind of a complicated beast because we're producing a play, we're producing workshops, we're a nonprofit. So there has been a few offers for larger theaters to just produce the play itself. And we've had to say, no, these are our stories. It's important to us that we share them in the right way. We don't really care about making money, which is a terrible thing I know for a business owner to say. We obviously care about it, but that really the whole point of the project and how it came to be is that it's important that we stay true to what we've said, which is that we want spouses and families to have their voices and stories be heard. And right now we feel like we do the best job of sharing that. So yeah. And it's hard to do because you're right. They dangle that carrot and you're like, oh man, 1,000-seat theater and, all the No, we feel like right now we want to be deliberate in each step we take, grow the business in the right direction.
Dan, I am sure you have had some opportunities come your way working in the space that we work in that just didn't feel right. Can you talk about anything on there? I'm not saying, talk about people or organizations.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. So people that know Dan Dwyer know that I'm very nurturing. I invest a lot of time and effort in establishing relationship rapport before we even talk about business. So, we all desire authenticity for ourselves, and we want to know that people we invite into our lives hold this virtue in high regard as well. So one of the first things I'll always look at is, are they being true to themselves? Be true to yourself. This time-tested advice of be yourself stands for a reason. It's probably the best advice you will ever receive. It's simple cliche, but as true as ever. What I add to this valuable knowledge is this: be true to yourself means that you are an honest, trustworthy presence, a person who lives by a code of morals and values. We see that all the time in our military. But be true to yourself is fundamental to living a life of integrity. If you think about it, if you sign up to help out at your local animal shelter, right, then make sure you're there at precisely 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Don't let those puppies down, right? Your duty to your obligations and your fulfillment of them becomes your character. I think authentic people are high character individuals who don't just talk the talk, they also walk the walk, which means they back up their positive, empowering words with actions that benefit themselves and others. So I really look at that before I enter any business endeavor with somebody. If they're true to themselves, if they have the ability to think inward and look outward, if they live in the moment, but yet they're great listeners, meaning active listeners, that they'll take what you have to tell them as a coach or consultant in mind. And if they're open-mindedness and fair to opportunities and other people, I think they're going to be successful. But I look for that sort of authenticity in any business endeavor or relationship.
So what I've experienced, and I don't know if you guys agree on this or not, but I think as you own your own business, you become sensitive, like you become vulnerable in ways that I was not prepared for. Like personally, I did not realize I was going to become this softie, and not to put it in a bad way, but like to care so much. I care so much, and then that can get taken advantage of, right? Yeah. So I try to trust my gut, which, there are times where I'm like, no, I don't know what that is. I'm just going to keep going forward. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I listen to myself more? Right. But I think that is becoming, I think that's also just growing as a person, and growing constantly, working on self-care and self-identifying and really becoming aware, and how that applies to your business.
Yeah, I think to be authentic, we must cultivate the courage to be imperfect and vulnerable, as you suggest, Lindsey. We have to believe that we are fundamentally worthy of love and acceptance, just as we are. And I've learned that there's no better way to invite more grace, gratitude, and joy into our lives than by mindfully practicing authenticity. It's a core value of mine.
And I would add too, I often say that the play it's like my baby, right? It's like my child. And so oh my
gosh, what if you read reviews that aren't 5 stars,
Right. So as we're growing the play in the business, I do kind of view it I have 4 kids, like a mom, right? Eventually you hand that baby over to the kindergarten teacher and you kind of put it out into the world, and the baby grows, and you have to be able to trust that the people you're surrounding the play and the project with or the business with are going to maybe not love it quite the way you love it, but are still going to be invested and take care of it and help you raise and nurture and grow it. So, I've tried very hard to surround myself and go into business with people with that same mindset. And so I think you're right. It is hard to put yourself out there in such a vulnerable way, to put it out there in such a vulnerable way, but so rewarding when you see other people say, yes, I believe in this too. Yes, I'm invested in it too.
Yeah, we do a survey after every coaching session. Dan, I'm sure you do this as well, where we invite feedback. We cannot grow as business owners, as people, without that feedback, but it exposes us to a very vulnerable space. So I know I can't read those reviews unless I'm in a good place to receive that that information. If I'm stressed out or if I have a lot going on, I'll go, you know what, I'll read this tomorrow morning when, I don't have 100 things going on at once, because I won't be able to receive it in a positive way. I might get offended, or I might, my skin needs to be a little ready for that feedback. And I think that's also, really important as we start, as folks that are listening, whether you're just starting out, you're in the process of, getting started, or you've been in business for years. I think authenticity is an everyday attempt and value, and something that you have to address every single day in the decisions that you make. Because if not, one decision can take you far left, right? And it's going to be really hard to get back on track. As we close up this podcast episode, Dan, I want to open this back up to you and see if you have any additional information to share, any tips, advice as it pertains to this.
Yeah, business leaders today struggle with authenticity for several reasons. First, we make more frequent and more radical changes because we're growing in our own right, changes in the kinds of work we do. As we strive to improve our game, a clear and firm sense of self is a compass that helps us navigate choices and progress towards our goals. But when we're looking to change our game, a too rigid self-concept becomes an anchor that keeps us from sailing forward. Second is, in global business, many of us work with people who don't share our cultural norms and have different expectations for how we should behave. It can often seem as if we have to choose between what is expected and therefore effective and what feels authentic, right? And then lastly, identities are always on display in today's world of ubiquitous connectivity and social media. How we present ourselves, not just as leaders, but as people with quirks and broader interests, has become an important aspect of leadership, authenticity, and having to carefully curate, that persona that's out there for all to see can clash with our private sense of self sometimes.
Thank you, Dan. People are watching. People are watching what you do, and people are forming opinions. So just do the right thing. Do whatever it makes you sleep well at night, Mm-hmm. Amy, do you have anything to add? I know your space is so, delicate too, because like I said, you're putting this on and you're in a much more public manner to receive that feedback. And
yeah, I think any artist knows that art is subjective, right? That's the beauty of art. So I think we just have tried very hard that, we're just going to continue to tell our stories in truth. And sometimes that truth is hard to hear. Sometimes that truth is hard to receive, but we're going to create a safe place where spouses and families can do that, and where civilian audiences can come and sit and see it and hear it. And I feel like as long as we, stay true north and are our true authentic selves, the rest will work itself out.
There's something that you both did during this 20 minutes that I don't know if you recognize, and when you replay it, you'll see it, but I was writing it down. Anytime we got to a point where I was asking something that was challenging, you both did a really great job of going, yes, that's the issue, or yes, that's the obstacle, but you always went back to that core values, that authentic. And I didn't guide you on that, but it's something that I recognized you guys did that. So I wrote it down for our listeners. If you feel very cluttered, lonely, or you're in your head a lot, or you're getting all of these temptations and distractions, do like what Dan and Amy just did, where yes, it's an acknowledgement, but they always went back to, this is why it's important to be authentic, and they went back to their values. So I have mine written down on my desk in case I start to stray too much from it. It's important to have that affirmation in your life. So thank you guys for both, really all the work that you do in general in life and for your businesses. I can't thank you enough. And I can't wait to see Dan again, hopefully soon. Amy, I can't wait to come to one of your plays. Please come to these today. That would
we will. Dan, we're coming to Colorado 2019. Yeah. So be on the lookout.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely.
What's the venue?
Hoping to partner with the ENT in Colorado.
Good.
Yeah. UCCS. So we're in talks now, but lots of exciting things ahead.
Amy, how can we follow you? How can we connect with you?
You can follow us on our website, www.iwillwaitvsp.com. Facebook page, same thing. I Will Wait, the Veteran Spouse Project, probably the two easiest ways to connect with us.
And that's iwillwaitvsp.com for those that didn't catch it. I'll also put it in the show notes so those that are listening can click on your social media feeds and follow you there. Do reach out to Amy and support her cause. It's an incredibly important cause that's out there. And Thank you, Amy, for coming on. Dan, how can we support you?
Yeah, of course, you can email me at dan@vet2bizlife.com, or you can go to my website, vet2bizlife.com, or on social media. I'm very authentic in 4 different locations, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So,
yes, you are. I can contest to that. So it's vet2bizlife.com, and that's
the number 2. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So I will share that on the show notes as well. And thank you both for coming on. Thank you both for sharing some of the vulnerability as it is behind this authenticity, the topic. And like I said, I cherry picked you both because I find that in your work, and like I said, I now have the honor of meeting you both in person. So I know you're not just, some BS business owner. There's a lot of them out there. So it's really nice when you find people that are legit caring people. So thank you guys so much.
Feelings mutual. Thank you so much, Lindsey. Thanks so much for having us on.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, you guys have a good afternoon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Drop and Give Me 20, brought to you by Germono Advertising Company in Norfolk, Virginia. Please visit our podcast in iTunes, click on subscribe, and leave us a review. Your support goes a long way. When you subscribe and leave reviews, it helps the guests on our show as well. Jump in and let us know what you think. You can also follow all of our guests on the Drop and Give Me 20 Facebook page. We have Instagram and Twitter. Those handles are Give Me 20 Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Germono, and I appreciate you listening to the show.